The Football Kickoff.
With Sky. Watch every single live Premier League game on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
You are very welcome along to the Football Kickoff with Sky. All the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It is the best place to watch the show every Friday. Liverpool with just the one win from their last 4 away games in the Premier League, but they go to Bournemouth on the back of a 7-0 thrashing of Manchester United last weekend. The leaders Arsenal came back from 2 goals down to pick up a dramatic 3-2 victory against the Cherries last weekend. Mikel Arteta's side go to Fulham for a London derby on Sunday. Ahead of that, the reigning champions Manchester City will have the chance to reduce the gap at the summit back to 2 points if they win against Crystal Palace tomorrow evening. They're among the games that we're looking at this weekend. The live games on the TV, you've got Bournemouth against Liverpool 12:30 on BT Sport tomorrow. Leeds against Brighton is the 3pm kickoff on Premier Sports. Crystal Palace versus Man City, the 5:30 kickoff on Sky Sports tomorrow. And then 2 games on Sunday. You've got that London derby between Fulham and Arsenal at 2 o'clock, and Newcastle against Wolves is the 4:30 kickoff on Sky Sports. It is also live here on OTB with Nathan Murphy and Kenny Cunningham on commentary. Delighted to say Colm Boohig and former Ireland international Keith Treacy here with me. How are you getting on, lads?
How are you, lads? All good?
Very well, yeah. Great to be here.
Exciting weekend last weekend. You were just saying, Keith, that everything was a little bit overshadowed because of what happened at Anfield in the late kickoff. But you were working on the early game on Sunday, which was reasonably exciting. We had 2 3-2 games on Saturday afternoon as well. So sometimes we can underestimate how some of these fixtures play out, particularly when you look at how tight things are at the bottom. 12 to 20 at 6 points.
Yeah, well look, I was getting a bit of stick because I wasn't doing the big game, the United and Liverpool game, but I thought the Forest and Everton game was really, really entertaining. It probably wasn't tactically great. There was a lot of touch tackles, a lot of people surrounding the referee every time there was a tackle. There was 4 or 5 people screaming at the referee, and it was ugly, it was scrappy, but it was very, very entertaining. I couldn't take my eyes off, and a 2-2 draw I thought was good. Considering how strong Forest are at home, I think Sean Dyche should be happy with the point and they'll move on. He said it was a building block, and you can see that Dyche's DNA is starting to go into that Everton team. People are running through brick walls. Damari Gray was really good. Seamus Coleman looked really good up and down the wing. So I'm still a bit nervous where the goals are going to come from, but I do back Everton to get over.
Yeah, I think that might be true of some of the teams we talk about towards the bottom of the table. But Colm, this is all beautifully set up now. That 6-point gap from mid-table right down to bottom. The top 4 races become interesting again with Liverpool's resurgent form over the last 5 games. You add into that the fact that Tottenham have been a little bit flaky and they're just sitting around the top 4 right now. Newcastle have fallen out of form, and we've got a big title race coming up between Man City and Arsenal down these last 12 games of the season. It's beautifully set up for the rest of the year.
Absolutely. This is very exciting overall. We have someone in studio for the kickoff. For me, this is fantastic. Having someone, Keith Treacy, right here. 2 weeks ago he was there, now he's here. So that's, first of all, that's very exciting. Second of all, how are Tottenham where they are? How are they so high up? They're in crisis, but yes, Champions League football awaits them. And then you have someone like Crystal Palace. Will, you and I were fighting over this statistic. We can share it maybe.
No, go on, you get it out of the way first.
I think this is remarkable for anyone that doesn't realise this. Palace are 5 points above the relegation zone, and they haven't won a game since New Year's Eve. They haven't won a game in 2023, and with players like Zaha, Elise, Eze, is Patrick Vieira, I'll put it to you, is Patrick Vieira getting off lightly here?
I think he is getting off lightly, but when you look at Spurs are doing really, really well, but the performances haven't been great. In terms of points, they're doing really well. Palace are the complete opposite. They haven't got the points on the board, but they've been performing okay. And look, they're playing City this weekend. I know we're going to touch on it a little bit more, but they have a decent record against City under Vieira. So, I wouldn't be backing against Palace, and that they're very, very difficult to beat, but just can't turn them draws into wins.
But they've 21 goals in 25 games. Are you, when you're watching Palace play, you see clear discernible patterns in play, do you? That's not the problem, is it? Is it just more of a lack of efficiency in front of a goal, a bit like Chelsea under Graham Potter?
Yeah, well, I don't think the XG for Palace is anywhere near as high as it is for Chelsea. I think Chelsea's build-up play is a lot better, but look, Zaha is going to be coming back into the Palace squad. He's just been injured. He's a big part of what they do, and I know you don't just want to throw it at one player and say that's why Palace haven't been performing. The performances have been okay. They are, on the face of it, doing okay, but they need to start putting points on the board. And I don't think Palace are looking over their shoulders just yet. I think there's a lot worse players, a lot worse teams in the division than Palace. So I do think they'll get away from it, but difficult game against City.
Yeah, I wonder with Crystal Palace as well, as it masked them up by some good performances against the top 8. They picked up draws against some of the big teams, and so therefore we remember those results more so than their struggles to turn draws into wins against other teams, which has been the problem in 2023 so far. We'll kick off with Liverpool, Keith, because last week, I mean, incredibly impressive. John Giles was saying to us last night that maybe part of it was the motivation of playing against Manchester United at home, that if you want a team to click into gear, you put an important fixture in front of them and maybe everything just clicks on the day. But Liverpool have been trending in the right direction. 5 clean sheets in a row in all competitions over the last 5. OK, they've got a very difficult game against Real Madrid coming up midweek in the Champions League, but their Premier League form is starting to come back a little bit now. Helped hugely even in the goal difference last week by scoring the 7 if they're racing against Tottenham Hotspur. Was that a one-off performance from Liverpool, or have you seen enough over the last month, with the Real Madrid game aside maybe, to say that Liverpool are actually coming back to the fore again?
I think Liverpool are starting to find their old form. It's when I look at they've 13 points from the last 15 available in the league. They've scored 13 goals in the last 5 and conceded none. So all the stats are starting to look in the right direction. But when I look at the midfield that started against Manchester United, Harvey Elliott, Fabinho and Henderson, I don't think they're robust enough to play the next 13 games in a row. And if by some miracle they go and overturn Real Madrid, they'll have even more games. So when I start looking at Liverpool's bench, that's when it really tapers off. That's when it's not like for like. It really is coming down a few levels. So there's a little bit of recruitment to be done. Can Liverpool, I was asking, can Liverpool go and catch Spurs? I think they will catch Spurs. I think Spurs are going to get really, really Spursy towards the end of the season and mess it all up. So I think Liverpool will actually be looking at Manchester United. If they're only 7 points off United, I think they'll be targeting them. Can they go and do it? They definitely have the firepower to do it, but in terms of defending, it hasn't been great. I know they haven't conceded goals, but when teams go and they target Robertson and they target Trent Alexander-Arnold, get them up the pitch and just play balls in behind, I think they can be got it. And look, we've seen Bournemouth were brilliant against Arsenal, really, really good. Shouldn't have lost the game. So if Bournemouth can get off to a quick start like they did against Arsenal, I would back them to try and get something out of the game, because emotionally there could be a hangover. It was a big, big night in Anfield. The crowd will be drained. The players will be drained from that. They're going down to Bournemouth. It's a really small crowd in terms of Premier League numbers. I think it's just over 10,000 a whole. So, everything's just building up to ask the Liverpool players, how professional are you going to be? Have you been out having a few drinks, enjoying the United win, or have you been professional? And if they have been tapering off a little bit, Bournemouth will go and hurt them.
It sounds obvious, Keith, but would you go unchanged here for Liverpool? It's been a week since the United game. They have Real Madrid next Wednesday. Eric Ten Hag last night made the decision to go unchanged, almost like, prove it lads, prove the point that this was the right 11 to select against Liverpool, but you didn't show up for me, and United did. The other side of it completely, Liverpool, that seismic result. Is there a danger of complacency with some players going, it's only Bournemouth, bottom of the table, they've conceded 7 goals in the last 2 games?
Half an eye in Madrid midweek as well.
Yeah. So what would you do, for example? Would you name the same 11, or would you change it up a bit?
I would have to name the same 11, but I understand why you'd ask the question. And look, I am thinking that maybe a bit of complacency could creep in. When you look at Harvey Elliott, I'm a big fan of Harvey Elliott, but he's a young boy. 1 minute he's playing against Real Madrid, then he's playing against United in front of an Anfield that's absolutely bouncing. Now he's going to go to Bournemouth. It's going to be a little bit like the media. Exactly. So is Harvey Elliott in the groove where every game means the exact same? Is he? I'm sure Milner will be in his ear. There's be a lot of players in the squad that'll be in the young lads' ears. But for me, Liverpool don't have the bench to be able to swap and change. I think if Liverpool take 2 or 3 players out of that starting lineup, Bournemouth to be licking their lips thinking, this Liverpool team for me, the starting 11 is very good, but like I say, I don't fancy the bench too much.
But surely any Liverpool squad should be good enough to beat this Bournemouth side. This is a championship outfit, really, isn't it, that we're talking about? It
is, and I have in my notes here that if Bournemouth were to get relegated, I don't think an awful lot of Premier League clubs would be lining up to take any of their players. I don't think there's any of them that stand out as he's a Premier League player, head and shoulders above the rest. I think they're a decent team. I actually think Gary O'Neill is overachieving at Bournemouth. I really do. And I know they're bottom of the league, I know that, but I still think they're overachieving. For me, for that group of players to still be in the race, to be mathematically still in it, I think they're doing really, really well. And look, Liverpool's team on paper should be able to beat Bournemouth, but Bournemouth at home, the way they're playing against Arsenal, and look, Bournemouth have a really bad stat where they've conceded 8 goals after the 80th minute. That's a real sick feeling all the time. So
what does that say to you?
Well, the first thing that would pop into my head is fitness issues. If you're conceding goals late in games constantly, I'd be thinking you aren't fit enough to do the work over 90 minutes. So I'm not sure. Look, Gary O'Neill will have the stats. He will know in black and white straight away if it's a fitness issue or not. But for me, as a player, I've been on the end of it, like a last-minute loss. They've done it now a couple of times. That's a sick feeling. Can you keep bouncing back from that?
Yeah, their winning position stats appalling as well.
Yeah.
So second worst in the league. Leicester have lost 19 points from leading positions this season. Bournemouth have lost 17, and they'll feel it was 3 points dropped even at Arsenal last week with the way they were reeled in. So that would indicate it's not just a one-off. This is a trend.
Exactly, and that's why I'd be leaning towards a fitness issue, because you keep conceding goals after the 80th minute. You can only put it down to fitness issue, or maybe it's a mental thing. Maybe they're not concentrating till the final whistle, and they keep getting kicked in the teeth towards the end.
That Liverpool strike force, is it starting to maybe come together now? Because Cody Gakpo comes in and he likes to occupy more central areas. So Darwin Núñez moving over a bit over to the left. Mo Salah had a good game last week against Manchester United, but his form has been down this season compared to maybe last year. But that's understandable because the midfield's changing so much and he's now in a very different strike force. But are we getting to a point now where a new Liverpool front three is starting to emerge here?
Yeah, it looks an awful lot better. Gakpo, I seen a lot of Gakpo when he was at PSV. I thought he was decent. I wasn't sure how high up in the Premier League he could go, but after seeing him against United, that little finish over the Gay was absolutely brilliant. You could have forgiven him for panicking and just putting his laces through that and hoping for the best, but the little dink was brilliant. Salah looks really sharp again. He looks like he's the bit between his teeth. Will he have the bit between his teeth against Bournemouth? That's what I really want to see. The United and Liverpool game, it's almost like a derby. You can write them ones off. So will Salah still have the bit between his teeth? I hope so. And Núñez, like you said, he starts in the middle and moves out to the left, and then he gets the rotation with Gakpo. So very, very hard to defend that from open play. So it is starting to click. The midfield, I think they need a little bit more energy in midfield, a little bit more quality in the passing. And look, I think if they can get another, I know people like Konate, but Van Dijk for me is obviously the mainstay. If they could get another, not even a world-class centre-half, a very, very decent centre-half alongside Van Dijk, who wants to defend, he doesn't have to be a ball player for me. Van Dijk can do that. Get somebody who will ruin the game and just stop others going forward, and that will complement the both of them for me.
They're few and far between, though, aren't they, world-class centre-halves?
Yeah, miles and miles apart.
It's I think Konate seems to be doing a decent job. Like Liverpool have been really good in the Premier League recently. The Real Madrid match is kind of a bit of an outlier, but 5 Premier League clean sheets in a row. Like, they are tightening up, and Konate playing the last 2, they look even better again. But I was really interested in your point there about Gakpo and a second finish. Like, confidence seems to be everything in football, even at that level of the game. Would Gakpo have even attempted that second finish had he not scored the first goal, which he took so well, in your own experience?
No, I think that's a good point. I think if that's 0-0 and he gets put through like that, I think he fires it across the 6-yard box and hope for something. But the fact that he's playing well, his confidence is up, he's feeling good, he just goes for the little dink finish and it comes off. And look, I thought it was a great finish, but it's a confident finish, But
it goes to show, like, at that level of the game, like, is the talent must be phenomenal, the talent level. Like, you're seeing the training pitch every day. And is it all down to the mental side of the game? Is it actually a very fine line in terms of the level of talent from the first to the worst team in the league versus the mentality?
Well, it's a little bit of talent. There's an awful lot of mentality, and it took me an awful long time to figure this out. And an awful lot of the game is played between your ears. It's not just a physical thing. And you look at an old mate of mine, Benny McCarthy. He has talked about bringing Rashford on and changing his mentality. And we all seen how good Rashford is just a minute. And we all knew he had the talent. The talent was there, but just tinkering with his mentality, making him a little bit more professional. And you look at the results. So it's a tough game, but an awful lot of it is played between your ears.
It's amazing at that level. It really is. Like, that self-doubt must creep in and get louder and louder, knowing that is it the problem is because there's thousands of people there watching you and then millions at home. Like, are you thinking about all of that when you're playing in that high level, intense? Yeah.
No, I don't think you think I think it's such a small circle, and obviously these boys are celebrities in their own right as well. So when Rashford goes out and he's not playing well, he goes for dinner, Twitter, social media, you don't play well, you don't play well. It's not one of them where you can hide. So look, just a little mentality change for me. I don't understand the whole social media side of things, but that's a conversation for a different day. But just little mentality changes at the top end mean an awful lot.
So many things when you think of Rashford that in 2020 he would have snatched at some of the shots that he's taken right now. I even think of the one at the Nou Camp where you're not expecting that he's going to shoot, but yet he's in such a confident run of form and everything he's doing seems to be going right that he's more than happy to take that on early. It's just a remarkable run of form he's in. Great goal again last night for him.
Yeah, he's got, I was just about to say, the goal against Betis is brilliant, and from a coaching point of view, you're telling him when he gets that ball onto his right foot, you're telling him strike across the goalkeeper, because the goalkeeper saves it, he's partying into an area, somebody might tap it in, but he goes near post. But you can't complain when he does that, can you? He just absolutely fires it into the top of the net, and again, that's a confidence finish.
Yeah, ideal response to Man United in many ways against Real Betis last night. They're very much on course now for quarterfinals of the Europa League. Do you think Ten Hag made the right decision to put the same 11 out again? It's almost like here's a chance for you to redeem yourselves, go out and do it.
Yeah, you say here's a chance to redeem yourselves. I think it was probably more of a punishment. You dug this hole, go and get yourselves out of it. And you know, from a coaching point of view, a managing point of view, at times you have to do that. You might have felt like there was a couple of bruises, a couple of knocks, a couple of egos would have took knocks as well. But the only thing you can do is get out and get straight back on the horse. And thankfully, it could have imploded. You know, when it went to 1-1, you're thinking this is a bit sketchy here. If Betis go and get one
Imagine
here,
Betis hit the post before half time.
Yeah,
exactly. And
crucial.
David Tugay looked really uncomfortable.
God, what's going on there?
Yeah, it looked really.
He looked
uncomfortable.
shell-shocked from Anfield, didn't he?
He did, yeah. There was a bit of a hangover from Anfield, definitely from him. And you know, he's probably had a sore back from picking the ball out. Times, but
like, you wouldn't say that De Gea was always the best with his feet throughout his career, but like he looked so shaky last time.
It was a different level
yeah,
altogether.
but he's had a couple of years of playing out from the back now. You know, you would think he'd get better at it. And look, I don't know. Look, United for me, if they can go and catch Liverpool. If Liverpool can go and catch them, it'd be a disastrous season because they've done really, really well. So very, very interesting at the top and the bottom of the league.
Yeah, for sure. So that game is on tomorrow afternoon, 12:30 kickoff on BT Sport. Premier Sport are going to be showing Leeds against Brighton, which is the 3:00 game. And like Leeds started well, Keith, since Javi Garcia came in, and they picked up a win in their first game against Southampton, then lost against Fulham and Chelsea afterwards. So they're still right in the mix at the bottom of the table. The only thing is their form at Elland Road is going to make all the difference. We know all about their away form is horrific, but 16 of their 22 points so far have all been picked up at home. Brighton are going great, but if Leeds are going to stay up, these are the type of games that they need to pick up 3 points in.
Yeah, they would fancy picking up 3 points here. At home, Leeds are a different animal, as you said. 22 points, 22 Premier League games, 16 came at home. It's just not. It's not bad at home, but it just hasn't been. We say this about an awful lot of the so-called lower teams. They just haven't got somebody to put the ball in the back of the net. They have Bamford, but Bamford is struggling. He's really, really struggling. They haven't scored in the last 2 games, and when I look at the Leeds squad on paper, Yonto, Aronson, Somerville, Bamford, they're not bad. This is a decent team, but you know, I get the feeling that when Leeds were looking for a new manager, there was a couple of boys turned them down, which I'm thinking, why is that? You know, because we didn't get a look at what's happening behind closed doors. Obviously, the managers didn't. They turned it down. So I'm curious to why so many people turned it down, because like I say, on paper,
timing might have been some of it, in that they backed Marsh right up until the end of the transfer window and then got rid of him pretty soon afterwards, and that he brought in some players that he wanted in January. And if you're, most likely with the nature of Rodrigo's injury, if you're a manager coming in, you're thinking, I would like to have had the chance to maybe bring a striker in.
Yeah, I understand that, but look, there's so many managers that want to get into the Premier League. It's the most sought after league in the world. If you get offered a job in the Premier League, you take it. You know, you look at one of my old bosses, Mark Hughes, is down at Bradford at the minute, and he's an unbelievable CV, and he can't get into the Premier League. So if you get offered a Leeds job with that squad in a relegation battle, I thought people would be licking their lips thinking I can get them out of that, but clearly there was something putting people off in the background. There might have been the length of contract, but I thought people would have fancied it. You know, whatever's happening in the background is happening. But to go back to the game, I'll be honest with you, I know Leeds are decent at home, but I fancy Brighton. I really, really do. And I think Brighton deserve all the credit in the world. They lost Cucurella, lost Trossard. They just keep churning out win after win. And a lot of people put it down to Potter, thinking, it was all Graham Potter's brilliant, but De Zerbi's just picked up the mantle and kept it going.
Amazing. Like, how's he getting this? Like you say, that they're a worse off team, but how's he getting them to score the goals that Graham Potter couldn't? And also you look at Brighton, right? There's almost 2 questions, one really. Since last October, in the top 5 European leagues, only Bayern and Barcelona have more possession of the football than Brighton. It's incredible, but at the same time he's turning it into ruthless finishing in front of the goal. What's he doing differently for you that Graham Potter was doing?
I don't think he's tinkered too much. It's I think the Graham Potter Brighton team was a very, very good team. I think Roberto De Zerbi knew that, and he thought maybe I can add little things here and there, but if it's not broke, don't fix it. And the one thing I really like about Brighton is they're very quick starters. In the opening 15 minutes of the game, they've scored 9 goals already. So if you're going to go out and start like a house on fire, you're putting teams on the back foot. And with McAllister in the middle, you know, winning the World Cup, we talk about confidence. His confidence must be through the roof, and his name is getting linked with teams all over the place. So McAllister's really, really good. Casado as well in the middle.
Getting Casado to sign a new contract is serious business too, because like, he was so determined to go to Arsenal back in January. Maybe it's just a case of getting extra money this summer, but they've given themselves half a chance of keeping him now.
Maybe, but I think it's literally just to make sure they get a couple of million extra for him. And look, I don't know how Brighton do it. They lose player after player after player, but they just keep going and going.
Yeah. What makes McAllister so special? Like, he's in the Argentina team there during the World Cup. Like, he has to be doing something brilliant because he's not with a high-profile team worldwide. As a midfielder yourself, like, what's he doing that you like so much?
He's always available for the ball. He'll take the ball under pressure. He'll take the ball on the edge of his own 18-yard box, and you can trust him with it. It's, you know, when you get your head up and you're in trouble, there's somebody closing you down, and you see him on the edge of his own 18-yard box. There's certain players you see and you think, I can't trust him with that.
Really?
Always trust McAllister. Give him the ball. He won't lose it. And look, when this fella's playing with Argentina and winning World Cups, you give the World Cup winner the ball. It doesn't matter where he is, you give him the ball, and he can score goals. He defends really well. He doesn't. I don't think he gets enough praise for the way he defends and the way he presses, but keeps everything ticking over nice and easy as well.
Would you think that yourself? Sometimes if you had the ball in a tight area, you look up, you see a teammate, you're like, I don't think I should give it.
Yeah, there is certain players you don't trust with the ball, and I remember Robbie Savage told a story once that so I think he was playing for Leicester at the time, and somebody fizzed the ball into Robbie Savage, and the first thing that the manager did was, I told you not to pass it to Robbie. Look, Robbie got a great career out of it, but you know, a talented midfielder he wasn't. He was a runner.
Yeah, I would have thought though, Robbie Savage, a player coming through Man United's academy, he'd be more than comfortable on the ball. He's the guy who'd want to get the ball to.
No, he wants to chase the ball. He doesn't want the ball. He's a professional ball getter, I think one of the managers called him. I can't remember who it was, but yeah, professional ball getter.
That's your LinkedIn title there, professional ball getter. Sounds good. Just one question there I had for you on Leeds. A lot of talk in the last 24 hours about managers coming back. Maurizio Pochettino linked with Tottenham. Should Leeds have gone for Bielsa, or is that finished?
I don't know. If they went for Bielsa, I would have given them, you know, maybe they have a chance of staying up. They'll concede an awful lot of goals. It'll be entertaining on the eye. It'll be 100 mile an hour rock and roll football, but it would feel like it's just stagnated. They got rid of him, they bring him back. It just feels like it would, you know, never go back. Unless the fans love him at Leeds, but I would have seen it as a backwards move had he reinstated him, to be honest.
Does that, by the nature of what you've just said there, do you think that Javi Gracia is going to struggle to keep them up then?
I think he will, just because I'm struggling to find 3 teams that are worse than him. Look, mathematically I know this isn't happened, but in my head Bournemouth are gone. In my head, Southampton in my head are also struggling to stay up. I think the only ones to have a real possibility of staying up are Everton, and I think Everton could replace Leeds. I think Leeds will go into the bottom 3.
Do you think West Ham will be alright?
I think they will be alright. I think it will be nervous. Obviously they're doing very well in Europe, which is probably, you know, not what they wanted. I'm saying I have a couple of West Ham friends at home, and I'm always saying the quicker you are out of Europe the better, because then you'll just pull away from that relegation zone, and the squad is going to be stretched. So look, I think West Ham will be okay, but it'll be closer than you would have liked.
Colm, give us your prediction for Brighton and Leeds then.
Brighton and Leeds, I'd say Brighton will win 3-1. I'm going to say,
keeping the European charge up.
Yes, absolutely. I think they're fantastic, this Brighton side. I'd love watching them. Yeah.
All right, we'll be back in a moment. Our focus is then going to be on the title race with Arsenal and Man City both in action.
The football kick-off
with Sky. Watch every single live Premier League game on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
The football kick-off
with Sky. Watch every single live Premier League game on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
Welcome back to the football kick-off with Sky. All the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sport this weekend and every weekend. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch us each Friday lunchtime. Keith Treacy and Colm Boohig are still here with me. We're changing our focus now on the title race, lads. 5:30 kick-off on Sky Sports. Tomorrow evening is Crystal Palace against Man City. Colm Boohig has already given us the stat that Crystal Palace have not won in the Premier League in the calendar year of 2023. While Man City, here's the stat to throw back back a column, have lost more points on the road in the Premier League this season than all of last year.
No way.
Yeah. They've dropped 15 points already on the road this season.
Why is that?
Well, they haven't been playing well away from home. Look at it as in black and white. But look, there's certain things. Look, Man City, for me, at the minute, I actually do think they're starting to hit form. 13 games to go. 3 on the bounce, unbeaten in 7 in all competitions. So Phil Foden is starting to find a bit of form as well. I think Haaland is always dangerous. I know he hasn't been, banging. He hasn't scored these hat tricks like people want. But look, City, I think for me, I'm a big Arsenal fan. But the reason I think Arsenal don't win the league is because City find another gear and just kick on. And they have all the form in this. When you look at a horse race, Man City are the favourites. They're second. They're just stalking Arsenal. And for me, they do find another gear. And look, it'll be difficult against Palace, but I expect them to find a way. I think he's brought Kevin De Bruyne out of the team. He's given him a bit of slap on the wrist saying he hasn't been great. When Pep does that, he usually gets a reaction from players. Usually he does. So if Kevin De Bruyne comes in, hits the ground running again, starts finding them passes for Haaland running in behind, I think it'll be a very, very difficult day for Palace.
Yeah, there's still plenty of road left for Man City when it comes to this title race. That's probably the most important thing. They're going to have divided loyalties between now and the end of the season. The Champions League has to be a burning ambition for Man City. Currently the favourites to lift the Champions League as things stand. But this is a big opportunity this weekend. They'll feel, especially last weekend, they will have been probably sore after beating Newcastle in the early kick-off. They watch Arsenal go 2-0 down at home to Bournemouth. You're thinking we're right back within, effectively the title race being back in our own hands, because they'll see this game against Arsenal as one that they can win next month and go top of the table. But they got to just keep the pressure on Arsenal, don't they? They
do. But look, I say I expect Manchester City to win the game, but Palace, this is a game that will play into Palace's hands, because Palace will go and they'll get 10 men behind the ball and they leave Zaha just standing on the halfway line. And they might even bring him back 20-25 yards because he still has the pace to run away from people in that situation. So it will be like an attack v defence type of scenario. And as soon as Palace win it, Wilfred Zaha will start running. The ball will be played into grass. So there's definitely a round where Palace go and get something out of this game. And like we said, Patrick Vieira has played against Manchester City 3 times. He's won one, drew one and lost one. So that's not a bad record for any club against Manchester City. So look, Palace will be in the game. If Manchester City can keep the door closed and in particular keep Wilfred Zaha under wraps, then I think they go and win the game pretty easy. If Zaha has a good game, then it's going to get really, really difficult. And look, even if City come away with a draw out of that, I don't think it's the end of the world, because really? I think Pep has said it as well. I don't think Arsenal go unbeaten the rest of the season. They drop points, City drop points. It's just who picks up more. Like I say, City have all the form. We've seen them in this position before and just kick on.
Like, Arsenal have some tough games left, lads. So do Man City, but Arsenal I think have tougher. Like, they have to go to Anfield, they have to go to the Etihad, they have to host Chelsea, they have to go to Newcastle, who I know aren't in great form, but they still have to go to St James's Park, where they kind of famously capitulated last season, and Granit Xhaka came out and castigated his teammates. Then on the Man City side of things, at home to Liverpool, home to Arsenal, home to Chelsea, you'd favour City, wouldn't you? Not just because of muscle memory, but it's a slightly favourable fixture list.
Yeah, but look, the Arsenal fixture list, it is what it is. Everybody has to play each other twice. It doesn't really matter when they come around, but you're looking at it and you're thinking, yeah, Arsenal maybe on paper will drop a few more points, but this City squad will get tired. As we're saying, they're going to go deep into the Champions League. You'd expect them to win during the week and kick on. So their loyalties are going to be split. They have a huge, very talented squad, but for me, they're missing some key members, and these are the red flags I'm talking about. And I've said it before, Cancelo coming on, playing for Bayern Munich, when you've got the best left back, best right back in the world, and you're sending them out on loan because there's a little bit of a spat.
Yeah. Then Bayern don't play him against PSG.
Exactly. These are. But the fact that Manchester City have Bernardo Silva in at left back, and that they've got the best left back going out the door. Yeah. Look, I'm not sure how bad the spat was. Pep Guardiola obviously thought he had to get him out of the club, but for me, back in my day, if a player is as talented as Joe Cancelo is a little bit upset, you sort of just pander to his ego and you make him feel invincible. You keep him in the team. To show him the door could end up being a mistake.
Yeah, it was one of Ferguson's regrets, wasn't it? Showing Jaap Stam the door and replacing him with a very much ageing Laurent Blanc, and that season they weren't great. But at the same time, it's interesting what you said there. You have to pay everyone twice, of course. And would the players really not mind that? Would they not look at the remaining fixtures and be like, oh God, look at that? You want some bankers, don't you, when you're so close to the title?
Well, there is no bankers. Every game's going to have pressure on it. Whether Arsenal play Bournemouth tomorrow, there's pressure. Yeah. Every single game, whether it's bottom, middle or top, there's pressure. So it's just who handles the pressure better. And the fact that the reason I go towards City is because in these big pressure games, City come out the other side of it. Like I say, I'm an Arsenal fan, and it's all too fresh in my mind. Arsenal's last season, going for the Champions League, getting beat in the North London derby, and then just tapering away. So,
are you not feeling reassured though by the way that they're getting some of these results? Think of last week, think of Aston Villa, think about these late winners that they're getting and coming back from adverse positions.
I am, yeah. Look, the Aston Villa one was brilliant. The Jorginho hit, and that was a real double whammy, because Jorginho coming in from Chelsea, there was a feeling amongst the fans that we really want Jorginho. He's a bit one-paced. Are we going to win the league with him? When he hit that and it hits the bar, goes in, all of a sudden he's accepted. Everybody loves him. So that got everybody on side, and then they get the last minute winner against Bournemouth. Winning becomes a habit. As much as losing can become a habit, winning becomes a habit. And the Arsenal players will be in the dressing room just thinking, starting to feel like our season. I'm very reluctant to say that on air, because as soon as I do, that's when they'll nosedive. But look, Arsenal will just be going on about their business, taking it game by game, and look, hopefully.
But Keith, there's no avoiding it. Like, Arsenal are in the driving seat, 12 games to go, 5 points clear. It's theirs to lose, like.
It is,
in every sense.
Like you said, they've got to go to Newcastle, they have to go to the Etihad. They've some very, very... Look, I could pick out 2 games very easy that Arsenal could lose there. And, you know, I could easily say I think City go unbeaten for the rest of the season.
You just want to crank up the pressure here, Colm. That's all you're doing.
But you were saying to me the fixture, sure, you have to play everyone twice, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you do, but I'm still saying Arsenal could lose to Liverpool, could lose to whoever, you know. But you would say, if Man City to win for the rest of the season, we could have a serious argument that I think Manchester City can win every game for the rest of the season. Arsenal, I don't think anybody would say that with too much confidence.
I still think there's twists and turns to come, but that's 5:30 on Sky Sports tomorrow. On Sunday, the aforementioned Arsenal go to Fulham, who've been a little bit patchy in their form in recent weeks. They're involved in an absolute thriller against Brentford last week, which is a 3-2 as well. So Arsenal obviously will know what they have to do, because they know what the City result is from Saturday. I wonder as well, Keith, when it comes to this, we saw the rotated team for last night in Portugal against Sporting. I wonder, do Arsenal care that much about next Thursday in the second leg?
I think they do, yeah. You know, because the last thing you want is to pick up 2-3 bad results in the Premier League, and then all of a sudden you're out of the race and you're finishing second. So for me, I wouldn't be putting all my eggs in any basket. I think at this stage, you know, a draw against Sporting is not the worst. We're bringing them back to London. We'd expect to win that game and be able to move on. So the squad is going to get more and more stretched. It's going to get harder and harder. But I think Arteta will have a huge decision to make in a month and a half's time, whether he's going to go for the Premier League or he's going to win the Europa League. I'm not so sure which one. Well, I know which one he'd want. I think all Arsenal fans would say they want the Premier League. I think it's going to be the tougher of the two to win. And of course, I do think they'll have to beat Manchester United in Europe as well to win that. So very, very difficult both routes, but I think they just take it game by game and see where it takes them. You know, you put your best team out. If there's knocks, you replace them. But that's what Trossard is so good at. Nketiah came in. You know, if I'd have said that Arsenal be challenging for the league with Nketiah playing the bulk of the games, you'd be thinking no chance. And Jesus has gone out with his injury. Nketiah's come in. Trossard's playing as a false 9. Really, really good. And look, a big one for me, Ben White coming in from Brighton as a centre half. You remember his first game against Brentford, and he got absolutely bullied, and I was thinking 50 million for this. And then he's gone out to right back and he's been brilliant. Absolutely, really aggressive with his pressing. He's quick enough to get back if somebody does skip past him. So look, some of the decisions Arteta's make has been really, really good, and it bodes really well for Arsenal.
I know you were a fan of Trossard before he came in, but have you been pleased by how well he's actually settled in so quickly?
Yeah, and people take that for granted, thinking, it's the Premier League, he knows it, he'll be okay. It's going into a new dressing room, bigger egos and a league club. I know Brighton are, in terms of the league, are not a million miles off Arsenal, but Arsenal are an elite club in England. Brighton aren't. I'm sure everybody would accept that. So Trossard going in there, Belgian international, has all the class in the world, but the way he manipulates the ball, he's not the quickest in the world, but he'll stand people up, manipulate the ball left, right, turn it in ribbons, and then he has that little pass as well. He had an assist there the other day, but he just nutmegged somebody, and I think it was somebody ran through and fit. It was brilliant. I think with Martinelli, he nutmegged somebody. Martinelli went through against Leicester. The Leicester goal. It was all down to Trossard. It's brilliant. So Arsenal, like I say, with Liverpool, I don't like Liverpool's bench. Arsenal's starting 11 is really strong, and you've one or two off the bench as well that can change things.
Speaking of Martinelli, he scored nearly one of the great Europa League goals last night against Sporting, where he ran half the pitch and just tried to go around the goalkeeper. Very surprisingly, on Monday morning's show just gone, obviously we were talking about Liverpool, Manchester United, and out of nowhere Nathan Murphy mentioned Gabriel Martinelli to Daniel Harris, our Manchester United contributor, and posed the point that Gabriel Martinelli could very well potentially be world class. Daniel Harris disagreed strongly. Where do you stand?
A lot
on
of
Martinelli?
clauses in there before you answer it. He could potentially be world class. So he didn't
could.
say he was world class.
No, but Nathan was very much hinting that this guy has everything that he needs to have to be a world class footballer, like world class, like the best of the best in the world. What do you think?
Well, as a left winger.
So, I suppose a general forward, left winger, turn forward.
Well, if you're saying you want him to be the best left winger striker for me in the world at the minute would probably be Mbappe. So if you're saying is Martinelli on the same level as Mbappe, no, not right now. Could he get there? Yeah,
it's the potential. That's what we're
potentially
talking
could
about,
get there. Yeah, I'd say.
Really?
He's been in the Arsenal squad for maybe 4 or 5 years now, so a long time, and he's still very, very young.
Yeah.
He's getting better every year. He is progressing, so he doesn't have the speed to hurt you like an Mbappe, but like the Leicester finish, the way he just opens himself out, he knows he's about to get a whack as well, but he takes the whack. He's nice and brave. So yeah, I think Martinelli could go on to potentially be world class. I think he's been overshadowed a bit by how good Saka is on the right wing, and obviously with Saka being English, he gets an awful lot of the plaudits from Sky. So look, Martinelli's doing his thing. He's doing really, really well, and look, you don't become a Brazilian international if you're not good, do you?
No.
I know
Colin,
there's good and there's world class. That's what I was wondering. Yeah.
give us your tip then for this London derby between Fulham and Arsenal on Sunday.
This is a good one. Will, this is tough to call. I'm going to say just Arsenal 1-0.
Another thriller, 1-0 to the Arsenal here.
Yeah. It doesn't mean that it's going to be a poor game, lads. Just low scoring doesn't mean lack of entertainment.
Yeah, they're staying to this area. That's the 2 p.m. kickoff on Sky Sports on Sunday. The 4:30 game will be Newcastle United against Wolves. Now, Newcastle are in a nosedive of form here, Keith. 3 defeats in a row in all competitions, failed to score in those games. Now, they were difficult matches. Liverpool, Man City, Manchester United in the EFL Cup final. But they've down to 6th in the Premier League now. And these draws not being turned into wins and now this run of defeats, it's seen them just slip off the pace a bit for Champions League. Is this going to be them out of the top 4 for the rest of the season, or do you think they can get back to form?
I think they'll come back to form somewhat. I don't think they'll recover and get back into 4th just because of how strong the contenders are in there. You know, they're winless since the start of February, and Eddie Howe has come out and said that the cup final was a huge distraction on his squad, which is fair enough. You know, they haven't been in a final for an awful long time, but 3 defeats on the bounce, all of 2-0, and you know, the one thing we were highlighting was Newcastle's defence was rock solid, and all of a sudden they're starting to leak goals. I know the opposition were very, very good, but they're not getting on the score sheet either, which is worrying. And no side has scored fewer goals than Newcastle since the World Cup break.
Yeah.
They've only scored 6 since then, which is not a great return. So yeah, look at Newcastle maybe nosediving a little bit, but you know, they were overachieving. They really were. Some of the players they brought in are really, really good, but I still think they're probably 4 or 5 players away from being able to say, you know, financially they're at the top table in football, but on the pitch they're not quite there yet.
Is that not an opportunity missed then? Because when I looked at January, I thought Newcastle got themselves into a remarkable position, because not just their own first half of the season's work, but Tottenham looked indifferent. Liverpool were way down the table. Chelsea sitting mid-table. Like, that probably won't happen again.
Yeah.
You've got 3 big clubs who were off the pace in the top 4. I was wondering why they didn't go back in the market in January and just bring a couple of players in to boost them in attack.
Yeah, well, it's a difficult one because you can't just come in and overhaul everything, because there has to be an incentive within the club. And you look at the players, they've almost the new goalkeeper, almost a whole new back 4, 2 new players in the midfield, and the front 3. Joe Linton's in there, Almiron's in there. Do you go and replace them? Because they are doing so well for you now, and the Geordies have really took to them since they've done well, especially Almiron. And
you could argue though Almiron's maybe burned out a little bit.
Yeah, it looks that way.
Someone else to come in.
Yeah, but that's when you need a player just to come off the bench and say, listen, you haven't been doing it. And that's the little slap on the wrist for Almiron, the competition to say, you're out, he's coming in, and you start training well, start hitting the back of the net and training, you work your way back into the team. And look, Eddie Howe is overachieving, he really is. I just hope the Newcastle fans don't get, you know, too itchy, because they're doing well. I don't want them to think, you know, we've lost a couple of games, this is disgraceful, you know, Eddie Howe out, because believe me, Eddie Howe was massively overachieving.
Yeah. This time last year Newcastle had a relegation battle. They're 6th now. If they just spread out their form a bit more, people will be happier. It's just exactly. They haven't won a game in nearly 2 months, but like you said, Keith, like the start of the season they were phenomenal. Also, is it not a case of just getting Alexander Isak fit? Because he looked brilliant when the little bits that he has played. Like Callum Wilson hasn't scored. He scored once in 14 games.
Goal scorer though, Colm. Even when like he was doing well at Real Sociedad, he was sometimes a facilitator up front rather than being, say, the man who will score goals. Like, I think he's a very, very good footballer, but when you're relying on Callum Wilson and when you're relying on, say, Almiron, who's now not scoring.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Well, Wilson looks shot. Like, it looks like he's done, really. Since the World Cup, 1 goal in 14 games. Like, Isak, okay, may not be a prolific goal scorer, but you can get that into him, can't you? Because he has the quality.
Yeah, but look, they need an out-and-out goal scorer. They haven't quite got that yet. Look, Wilson's a decent player, Isak's a very decent player, but they're not somebody who you'll hang your hat on and think there's 20 goals a season. You know, there's very few of them out there. I know that, but they need somebody who comes on the pitch and thinks, if I score, I've had a good game. And you know, that selfish player that you need. And I like Wilson. Isak, you know, he's had his injuries, but again, he's more of a link-up player than somebody who will be on the end of things. So I do think Newcastle will go back at the end of the season and address a couple of positions. I think Longstaff in the middle, you know, he works hard, he gets around, but I think the fans, and let's not forget, they might have 1 or 2 going out the door. Sven Botman's done really, really well. Bruno Gomares has done well. He could end up getting a couple of clubs in from as well. So Newcastle have a fight on both ends to try and get people in the door and keep people in the building as well. But look, for Eddie Howe's first full season in charge, you know, what more could you want realistically now? I know the Geordies will say, this and that, we could have won a cup, but a cup final and really, really comfortable in a European race.
4:30 kick-off, Sky Sports on Sunday. Before we go, Colm, you have a question from a viewer for Keith.
I have a question from Rory Larmer, big fan of the show and a huge Blackburn Rovers supporter. He wants to know from you, Keith, who's the most talented player at Blackburn when you were there?
The most talented, well, the most naturally gifted I ever played with would have been Tugay. He was unbelievable. Like I said, smoked at half time, cheated in bleep tests, very rarely trained. Used to get crates of Coca-Cola delivered to the canteen. Nobody else was allowed to drink them.
The coach is mad.
Well, not when you're as talented as Tugay.
No, we'd not be thinking like you're so talented if you just put that extra bit of effort in.
Sorry, no, when you say talent, do you mean his passing range? Like what, like specifically was he so
everything,
brilliant at?
Passing range, just the way he controlled the ball, his force touch was second to none, the way he read the game, his way of pass, like I was a winger and I'd be running onto his balls and the way it'd just be there for you, right in front. You wouldn't have to break your stride, and his pass appreciation was brilliant, the way he's seen the game and the volleys he scored, you know, at the edge of the box, some of the volleys he would score, and an absolute character. Absolutely loved him. He was brilliant with me. And there was a couple though, you know, Roque Santa Cruz was very, very talented. Craig Bellamy was one who came in and worked on his game every single day. He was probably the most talented I played with, who, you know, had to work at it. Two guys just rolled out of bed and was brilliant.
How did you find playing with Bellamy?
Bellamy, look, all the stories that people have heard about Bellamy are, you know, I heard them and I thought, they're probably true. You know, he is quite ruthless. He's a winner. He wants to win. But, you know, if you weren't up to the standard that he wanted, he would let you know. Whether you were an older pro or a younger pro, he was cutthroat with people at times. But it drove the standards on, and Mark Hughes loved him for it. So, look, if I was a manager now and I had the chance to bring Craig Bellamy into my club, I'd bring him in just for what he would do in the dressing room behind the scenes.
You have been watching and listening to the football kick-off here with Sky. All the football you love in one place across the weekend on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
The football kick-off
with Sky. Watch every single live Premier League game on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.